We're going live soon.
I like the countdown. This is great.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 2:30 workshop, Know Your Numbers, Dig into Farm Financials and Record Keeping. We'll be getting started shortly. In the meantime, we have some information shared if you'd like to use Streamer to view live captioning. We also will be launching some poll questions to learn more about you. So thanks for being here. All right, so that first round of polls is closed, and I think we're ready to get started. So hello, everyone, and again, welcome to Know Your Numbers, Dig into Farm Financials and Record Keeping workshop. You can feel free to enter questions into the chat as we go. Our speakers will plan to answer them along the way, but also, again, at the end if there's time. We'll be using polls a few times today, and we learned yesterday that by clicking up in the polls section in the chat that attendees can actually see the results as well. Bear with us a bit on the polls. There is a lag in platform video and audio, so we're going to work really hard to make sure everything is timed correctly, but if a poll pops up without context, it would be great if you could still answer it for us. And hopefully you've had a chance to sign into Streamer by now if you'd like to use it. We also would really appreciate your feedback after this workshop and after the conference in general. I will post a survey link in the chat as we wrap up. And I'm just going to quit sharing my screen here so we can do a little introduction. Okay, cool. So my name is Taylor Millington, and I'm part of the ASAP team. I would like to introduce and hand it over to our speakers today, Gabriela Moreski of Mountain BizWorks and Kevin Krzyzniak of Blue Ridge Chaga Connection.
Great. Thank you, Taylor. So I'm Gabriela, and I'm an agricultural coach with Mountain BizWorks. And I used to own a farm in Homestead, Florida, where we grew microgreens, baby greens. We had 52 different varieties of edible flowers, tropical fruits, oyster mushrooms. And I also pioneered farm to table and bed and breakfast farm stays many years ago on the farm. And our co-presenter today is Kevin with Blue Ridge Chaga Connection. And Kevin became my client with Mountain BizWorks in 2019. And we worked that P&L, and I'm happy to say for Kevin that this year in 2021, he was able to quit his day job. And also, Kevin writes an awesome newsletter every month, the Blue Ridge Chaga Connection, and it's a very informative and heartfelt newsletter, so please check it out after our talk. I'm going to attempt to do the screen share now, and hopefully we're on board, ready to go. Can you see that? Awesome, great. All right, so today, also, I just want to mention I've downloaded the documents, the templates that we're going to look at today. And so there's going to be 4 templates. And if you guys want to take a minute and download those, the ones that are listed here, actually there's 5. And I apologize, they're in a PDF, and it's just because this platform doesn't allow Excel versions. So we will email you the Excel versions and that have that accessible to you, so you can have a template to manipulate. But for today, if you don't mind working with the PDF and follow along on that, that would be great. So the templates that we're going to review today is production capacity. And basically the production capacity is what can I produce? And so what's my maximum capacity within my land constraints or physical constraints that I have with my production? So you want to start with what's 100% of capacity. And you may not be at 100% the first year. So you may say, well, I want to know everything that I can do, but this year, the first year, I'm going to do 50% of that capacity. So year 1, you would say 50% of your total 100%. And that's your template for working that out. The next important document is your profit and loss statement, which is also called your income statement. And that takes your income and then all your expenses of operating your business. And we're going to dive into that deeper. The next thing is your cash flow, and cash flow you would do monthly also, like the P&L or when you pay bills, to determine how much cash you have and how that's going to flow through the year. And then the final document is the balance sheet, which is basically looking at what is my income, what are my assets, what are my liabilities, and then you arrive at the net worth. So those are the documents that we're going to look at. And now I'd like to turn it over to Kevin to tell us your story.
Thanks, Gabrielle. I'm Kevin Krzyzniak, and I started at a very amateur level. So I got interested in mushrooms and plants upon moving here, and that was 10 years ago. And very simply just started by attending some walks, some local forays on mushrooms, and started learning that way. and it really piqued my interest and passion. And I had to know everything. I had to know what the different mushrooms were, what the plants do, how they're good for you. And I dove in with local experts, and I did some work trade. I did a little bit of college at Haywood Community College, and just getting to know everything. And I was just soaking up as much information as I could. I did a lot of self-study, and this has been a whole process over the last 10 years. And just last year, I was able to start my business, and with a lot of help from Mountain BizWorks and Gabrielle, and got everything organized and together. And beginning this year, I quit my day job, which I did enjoy. I enjoyed having a day job, but I feel this sense of freedom now, and accomplishment, and really excited about my business right now, and it's doing really well. I've started off this year getting into now 7 new markets. I was doing some chats earlier on this forum with some markets, and I'm excited to get involved with them as well. So I'm trying to expand my reach a little bit. So yeah, that's kind of my little story in a nutshell.
And Kevin, you were a sole proprietor when you started 10 years ago. And then when did you become an LLC? Oh, in 2020.
In 2020, yeah.
Okay. And that's kind of yeah, when things really took off for you too on your business. Correct?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I started very simply by doing a few tailgate markets. I started with one tailgate market, and got into the French Broad Food Co-op, and they were one of my big accomplishments. And from there, it was just doing that year after year, and finally getting the confidence to have more products and have more available. And now I'm also teaching. So that's one thing I left out, is I also teach. So I lead walks and identification of plants and mushrooms.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then Taylor, I guess we can go ahead. We've got one poll question to launch right now. If you want to go ahead and launch that before I'll go on to the next, dive deep into all these numbers. Okay, so hopefully everyone's had a chance to answer that poll question, and it's really want to get an understanding for what you're using. And I think when you're starting out with spreadsheets is great, and it doesn't cost you money. So you know, a lot of people will advance and eventually move up to QuickBooks, something like that. And you know, there's a standalone QuickBooks and there's a monthly fee QuickBooks. I prefer the standalone, but if you don't have to spend that money yet, spreadsheets just work fine, and that's what we're going to review today. And all the spreadsheets that we cover will help you, will be everything that you need to run your business. The most important one to start with is really, again, that production capacity. So if you look at that first document that's in the downloads, or that's the production capacity sheet. So essentially the production capacity is, you know, how much land do I have, and how am I going to break that down? So, you know, typically you may do your unit of measure as linear feet, linear row feet, and say, for example, one bed is 25 linear feet. So your crop variety, say I'm growing arugula, I have one bed of 25 linear feet. So that's my unit. My unit of measure is one bed, and that's the length of the unit of measure. Then the next thing to look at is what is going to be my yield on that unit of measure. So say if I have arugula, I'm going to harvest 25 pounds off of that 25 feet. So then the next column on your spreadsheet, here's column D, would be the total units per season. So if I'm going to take 2 cuttings off of that bed, I'm going to rotate that 5 times through the season. I'm going to have a total of 7 harvests off of that unit of measure. And so say I get 25 pounds, that's going to be a total of 775 pounds. And then I'm going to multiply what I'm going to get paid for that per pound. So I'll get, say, $6 a pound for 175 pounds. So my income on arugula for that bed would be $1,050. So you're going to do that for every single crop, every single bed. So what you would arrive at is in the bottom right-hand corner, that magic number of my total income on all my crops. So that tells you what's possible. So do we have any questions on that? And I want to encourage you guys because there's some, there's a lot of details here, and as you're looking at things, you may say, well, what does this mean here? What does that mean there? Feel free to jump in on the chat session. Okay. And so, Kevin, how did you use your production capacity spreadsheet? And what I want to Kevin is going to show us here is there's many different ways to use this. And it depends on, what you're growing and what you're doing on how you're going to interpret that capacity spreadsheet. So I think I'm going to get out of screen share, right? And then Kevin's going to get into screen share, and we'll explain how he used that document for his business. Am I out?
You are.
Okay.
And let me jump in. So that should be up. Yeah, so mine's a little bit different than what you explained. Obviously, I don't have a farm. I do everything wildcrafted, so my products come directly from the forest. So there's a lot of land involved there. But looking at this sheet, so I deal a lot with dried mushrooms. So after I harvest, I'll dry the mushrooms, and I sell them in different capacities. And this is kind of different. So I've even grown from when I originally did this. But what I had then was I make tea bag sets. I sell dried mushrooms in jars. I make tinctures from the mushrooms as well. And now I've started to sell them in dried ounce form. And that would be a new addition this year to this form. But breaking down the cost of goods, what each one would cost. And mine was kind of tricky too, because when you're making tinctures, you have to just kind of estimate, I guess, the amount that it costs to make the tincture, the amount of alcohol or vegetable glycerin that you're using. Yeah, so here I have the prices. So that I have in the first column there, I have the cost of goods, and then the price next to it, and then you times that by the quantity. So this was from my very first year before I was even a business. I was a sole proprietor, and for example, I sold 45 pounds of chaga at $45 a pound, and there's my gross income for that, and it did it for each individual item on here. Let's see if I can scroll down. So besides doing the products, I also had fresh mushrooms that I sold, and I sold these by the pound or half pounds, and you can see the different pricing there. And that is that whole sheet, I believe. Gabrielle, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, and Kevin, you had your magic number at the end at of what your total income is going to be from that entire production, correct?
A magic
yeah, I know I remember saw one sheet where basically attendees, you would in Kevin's column I, you would total up column I, and then that would tell you your total income that then you would then plug into your P&L, which we're going to look at next.
Right. Sorry. So that's what I was going to say, is that magic number is on the P&L sheet.
Okay, great. All right, so we're gonna move on over to the P&L sheet, and Kevin, you're gonna get out of screen share, and then I'll jump back in, and we got this down pat. So here we go. Awesome. And there is a question in the chat that someone had asked about how do you account for crop rotation, succession planting. So for example, as I had mentioned, if you're looking at that 25-foot bed, so every time you're going to count how many succession plantings of, say, arugula you're going to do. So each time you do a succession planting in your unit of measure, your bed, you're going to capture your yield off of that, and you just total up all the succession plantings, all the beds, that will give you the total number of beds and your harvest per bed with all your succession plantings. So if I have 2 cuttings on my arugula and I'm going to have 5 succession plantings, that's going to give me a total of 7, a unit of 7 beds that I'm going to multiply the number of pounds out for that number of beds. Does that make sense? So hopefully, yeah, that's going to get you to that magic number. Okay, so hopefully I was answered that. And next that we're going to look at is the P&L, which is, I think the second most important document in the whole scheme of things. And so here you really have to look at your P&L monthly. And so every month you're going to look at what list. The top is always going to be what's my income, and I think it's always a good idea to break down your income to your different income streams, whether it's a CSA or a market or restaurants, to identify that, and then you'll get your total income. And then comes your expenses. And under expenses, and this is a typical standard P&L setup format that lenders look at. So it makes it seamless with what you're working with and what a potential lender would be looking at. But the next category under expenses is called variable or cost of goods. And those are the expenses that are directly tied to production. So for example, it's your seed, your fertilizer, and then after you harvest, your packaging and labels, and even credit card transactions are included in that. So the key to remember about variable cost of goods, is that it's called variable because that category will vary depending on your production. When you produce more, you're going to have that expense category is going to go up. You produce less, that expense category is going to go down. So that's why it's variable. And in the standard format, when you subtract your variable cost of goods from your income, that's called your gross income. Okay? So the next category is your operating expenses, and that's sometimes called overhead or fixed. It's not always fixed, but it's some things are fixed, like your utilities or your rent, but some things are not fixed, like your repairs and maintenance. And this would be the things like your utilities, your rent, I include payroll in that, and your administrative costs, which would be like your office expenses and your insurance. And office expenses will vary from month to month, but usually it's kind of consistent. But the whole idea is that then you have your gross income, you've deducted your variable costs, and then you deduct your operating expenses, and that gives you your monthly nut of everything that you need to pay, and then your net income after that. So you always want to know your nut, because the goal is keep expenses steady and keep income rising. And so you want to keep a good eye on those numbers and have the expense category go up and always be above your nut, because then you're going to have good cash flow, which we're going to talk about in a minute too. So there's there's a lot in that. And once you use it and you're using it regularly and plug in those numbers or watch those numbers, it'll become easier to work with. So do we have any questions? How do you know what the yield is per crop? You can go to lots of websites. Actually, Johnny's Seed has on their website expected yield per 100 linear feet of many crops. So you could use that website. Google, is fantastic. You can just Google, what's the average crop yield per crop. But Johnny Seed I've used, and you can go from there. And Jill, thank you. You answered. There will be copies of the presentations available after, because it's a lot of information and you may want to review it again. Okay, so any questions on the P&L? All right. I wanted to share with you guys also the easy P&L. And so this is like a quick way to do a P&L that is, you basically download your bank statement and your credit card statement. And when you download it from any of those, it's downloaded as a CSV file, but you don't want to work in a CSV file. So you always save it as Excel or Numbers, whichever one you're working in. And then you would copy and paste to get them both on one sheet and line up your categories, make sure all that fits. Well, line up your columns. And so then you have everything from because now we pay everything with credit cards or, bank drafts or bank debit cards. So it's easy just to use those statements and combine them. And then I add a column called categories. And so the category names are the same names that I use in the P&L. And it's just a real quick way of have it all downloaded. I add up each of that category into the P&L. So that just makes a real quick, simple way to arrive at your category totals to plug into your P&L. Okay, does it make sense? All right, so Kevin, how did you use your P&L? And I think I need to get out of screen share again, right? And done.
So the P&L sheet is probably the most important one that I've used for sure. And I'm going to bring up mine. Just a moment. Oops, that's not the one. There we go. Oh, did that not work? Sorry about that. Let's see if I can just get this pulled up real fast. I will say, while I'm doing this, that doing the P&L form was crucial for me to figure out like all my expenses and things. It's pretty much everything I didn't think about when I was starting a business. So like I never really thought about my business expenses that much, and mileage, for example, all of that was really important to track and keep track of. And this made it really easy, especially with Excel. And I should have it here, right here. Sorry about that. So here it is here. That should be it.
Awesome.
Great. And yeah, so with this, you can see I started with my products and followed it monthly, how I sold each of the products. And I also tracked my walks, and I broke things down into different markets that I was in at the time. So I was in the French Broad Co-op and Half Moon Market and Black Mountain. I have a category there of presentations that I did. So I have physical products and then the other products that I offered as far as walks and things like that. And as I'm going down, here's the variable expenses that Gabrielle was talking about. Different things that I spent money on, such as supplies like tea bags, buying the glycerin and the alcohol for my tinctures, buying the tincture bottles, paper bags, all these kind of things came in. And then I also had different fees were part of variable expenses, shipping materials. These are all things that I knew I was spending money on, but I wasn't really keeping track of it. So this made it very easy. And then going down, there's admin expenses. Different things I'm using this year that I didn't use when I was originally doing this sheet. Like I've now added the internet and the phone as part of my expenses. You could see my vehicle, how I use that with expenses and mileage, professional services, so different things like printing, web hosting, paying your taxes, different subscriptions, definitely travel, food, lodging, all of these expenses made nice and neat here. And then here at the bottom, you'll see a lot of different marketing ones. So I broke these down in a whole different form, but they were all different expenses I kept track of and different ways I marketed my business. And then, oops, sorry. Here's all the magic numbers here. And my real magic number was up here, where I had the total of all my sales and everything, which ended up being 22,000. And my goal was 20,000. So reaching that was super exciting. And this year, and this is another thing about the P&L, is that it gives you a projection of, what next year might look like. And for me, this year, I'd really love to make 35,000, and that's my new goal, and that's the new magic number. But it was just really exciting to follow it month by month and see, like, as I was getting closer and closer to my goal, the excitement would rise, and I'm gonna get there, and then I finally did. And that magic number is what I used to go off to actually leave my day job. So I knew I had to reach this amount, and I would feel comfortable doing this full time, and having it as a business, and it would, none of this would be possible without all these different ways to keep track of everything. So it's really handy and it's really useful, and I never would have thought about it. So having Gabrielle as my business coach was invaluable to me, for sure.
And Kevin, you're going to reach that magic number of your goal this year.
I believe it. That's right. Manifestation.
Yep, you will do that. Awesome. Thank you, Kevin.
Let me get out of the screen share. Should I leave this up, or should I take it down, or I guess I should take it down.
All right, and I'll jump in. We're getting this down pat. And and I think sometimes not until you really tally all those expenses on one sheet of paper, and you think, oh, I forgot to include this or include that, and when you really have it all in one place, you realize, oh my God, there's stuff I forgot that I should be tracking. And so it kind of it helps to have it all organized like that. And as Kevin will tell you, one of my favorite deductions is mileage. And every time you go to the farmer's market, that's mileage. When you go pick up supplies, that's mileage. So you can deduct 57.5 cents for every business mile that you drive. And that can end up being a sweet deduction at the end of the year. So I also want to mention, before I go on to the next thing, is about your document number 3, it's the P&L annual. And so when you're keeping track of your expenses monthly, and then you have your line items across, and you total each line item, and you get the total for the whole year, and then for that whole year you move it over onto the annual P&L. And so I like to have a separate P&L for annual, because then I track it year by year. So Kevin now knows he saw his magic number for 2020. And now he's going to track that for 2021. The end of 2021, he'll match it up on the annual with 2020 and see how much farther he's gotten in 2021. And so also what I did on the annual P&L template is I have a column in there called Schedule F. And as a agricultural business, at the end of the year, you'll be filing your taxes with a Schedule F, which is for farming. And Kevin does a Schedule C because he's a company. So just, but either way, most of you may be doing a Schedule F because you're farming. And I want to make it easy, and I put a column in there to tell you the line items on your P&L sheet, where that goes in on the Schedule F. And because you're doing that activity annually with your Schedule F, it makes sense to have that on your annual P&L sheet. So that's in the package also. Okay. So do we have any more questions about those? All right, we're moving on to cash flow. So cash flow is this is the step beyond the P&L. And so, again, you do the cash flow whenever you're sitting down and paying bills. And I think most people's probably usually monthly. And so when you sit down and do that, you're on your cash flow template, the first thing to look at, the top of the sheet is, what money do I have in the bank? And then, what do I have coming in? Like, right, what's in accounts receivable, what's coming in, what sales do I have that still need a deposit in the bank? So that's the nut that I have for to spend, that I can draw from to pay my expenses this month. So that's all the cash in. So that gives you your total cash on hand, right? And then you're going to look at, what's the cash going out? What bills am I going to pay? So the next category is cash out. And so you would look at, what is my nut from my P&L? So I would put that in cash out. And then I'm going to add the things that are not on the P&L. For example, what's not on your P&L is your credit card payments, your loan payments, money that you're taking out to pay yourself, taxes on that income. So those things are not on the P&L. So those would be on the cash flow statement, because you want to know, do I have enough money in the bank to cover all these expenses? And this is really, what any lender wants to look at. They want to know, do you have the cash flow to repay a loan? So, while Kevin has, he has a product that has a shelf life. So he can have a steady income throughout the year because he has a shelf life product, value added. So in most farming, we have something that's seasonal and we have something that doesn't have a shelf life. And because it's seasonal, we may make the bulk of our money in the spring, summer, and fall, and winter is our slow season. So it's your cash flow that helps you get through that slow season. So, every month you're listing what I'm making, what I have to spend, and then say come August, you're like, okay, I have enough money in the bank, enough reserves in the bank that's going to carry me through, say, December, January, February, when I may not have an income. And it's your cash flow that's going to tell you that. And it's also going to be for your decision making. So in August, if you look at that, number of what I have in reserves in the bank to get me through the winter, if it's not enough, that's the time to make the decision to take out a loan. And so, and you never want to borrow money when you need it, because you want to borrow money before you need it. The reason being, it's a process. So figure, for example, it's going to take you 2 weeks to pull together all the documents for a loan. It's going to take 2 weeks for the lender to process it. And then it could take another 2 weeks if you're missing something in your package, or they need an explanation on something. So then it gets to go back to them, and then it gets approved, and then another week to actually get that money deposited in your account. So you could be at 7 weeks before that money that you need to get you through the slow season comes in. So that's why you would really use that cash flow statement to determine, is my cash going to carry through? Do I have enough in reserve to pay my expenses, or do I need to take out a loan? Okay, so that's the really important, valuable part on the cash flow statement. Let me just jump over here and see if we have any questions on that. Okay, Karen says, I assume since this is our startup year that we'll have a loss as we are paying for everything as we go instead of going into debt. But if I do a P&L on an Excel spreadsheet, I do need to list all of our expenses thus far, correct, as we have no income yet. Correct. That's right, Karen. And so don't get freaked out about not showing a profit the first year. And I think there's leeway. You know, the IRS doesn't expect you to show profit for 3 years. I think that number is. And I probably in farming, I don't know, I don't worry about it in farming too much, because I know as a farmer, I would put money right back into the next idea that I had of something to do. So maybe I didn't have a good profit all the time, but I had cash flow and I paid my expenses and I had a lifestyle. So, so don't stress about, you know, showing a profit. And the most important thing is that you're tracking everything, and you may have debt to begin with because you've got those startup costs. And that's a separate line item. I think, Kevin, on yours, you added your startup costs at the bottom of your P&L. And so you had a separate accounting for your startup costs. So your startup would not be part of your P&L, but you could do what Kevin did, just keep track at the bottom of your P&L of what you are spending as a startup cost. And that may be what you end up wanting to borrow money for is your startup costs. So I think, right, so you don't have any income, and that's, so in your P&L you show zero income, you still show your expenses. So the whole point is tracking something. It's just tracking information, and it's not a judgment until the end of the year when you go, oh, yay, we made our goal, or oh shit, we need to borrow money, or, you know, we need to reduce expenses or increase sales. And so that's the decision making there. And Kevin, I want to comment on we didn't do cash flow, and if you want to explain why.
So yeah, we didn't do cash flow. No, I considered getting a loan, and it was for an industrial size grinder. So one of the mushrooms I deal with is chaga, and it's a really hard mushroom, and it's really hard to break down. So I did it a lot by hand with a sledgehammer for a long time, and that got to be tiring. So I thought if I got a big grinder, that would be great. And I've seen other companies use ones, and they were thousands of dollars. And I started the process with Gabrielle for a loan. But in that process, I found one that was much cheaper. So I found a smaller one that worked for me, that did the job, and I just bought it outright. So that was great. I didn't need the loan, and it was one less little bit of debt that I would have had for sure.
And that's you know, that's the thing, is that depending where you are in your process, is that you were able to track everything on your P&L, and having, you know, a shelf life product, it's easy for you to have consistency throughout the year. And so for in Kevin's case, he didn't need to use the cash flow, and didn't need to borrow money. So and you know, that was one of the silver linings, I think, of COVID, is that people could who were, you know, us as farmers and being in the food business and the healing and health business of, you know, good ingredients, that people really jumped on that, and it ended up being a blessing, I think, for all of us in that line of business to expand what we're doing. And I think, Kevin, that was a good thing for you too, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And the other thing was that I didn't have a lot of startup costs. So like there wasn't much to get started, I guess, you know, so.
And that's the bootstrapping it thing too, is that, you know, you when you have some savings or something, you get what you can, then you get some income, and then you get the next thing, and it's that organic growth of, you know, incremental growth. And that works too for a lot of people.
That's right.
All right, so then we'll take a look at the final document in the set, and that's your balance sheet. And the balance sheet, you really you do this annually, and so it's once a year you update it, or when you're applying for a loan, because that's going to be on your loan package, and I'll go over those documents in a minute. So first, with your balance sheet, I always like on all these spreadsheets, you always list the positives first, which is how it should be. The positive is your assets. And so the cash that you have in the bank. And what's interesting is that your crops in the ground, and even Kevin, for your mushrooms that are in the process of drying, that's considered an asset that you would put on your balance sheet. You would put a value on that. And then any equipment that you have. And so cash and crops are considered a current asset. Then equipment and furniture and fixtures are considered an intermediate asset. And then buildings and land are considered a long-term asset. And so you have those assets. It doesn't mean that you own them outright yet. And then that's where the second part of the balance sheet comes in, and that is your liabilities. And so the liabilities would be, again, the current bills I have to pay, the intermediate, which is the equipment, and then the long-term loan payments that I have. And so for your loan payments, your lender wants to see how much you borrowed, what's the interest rate, what's your monthly payment, and what do I have left to pay. And so on your balance sheet, you can track that. And also on your cash flow, I like to use that. I forgot to mention there's a column in the cash flow for debt. So as you pay off your debt, you can track that in your cash flow also. So then you get to that magic thing at the end, which is your net worth. And I just want to say that your net worth is not necessarily that number. Your net worth is everything that you are as a human being, which is much more than that number on that piece of paper. But lenders like to use that number, and then they will determine what's called the debt to asset ratio. And so they divide the debt by the assets, and you ideally want to have a number less than 1. And that says that if for any reason you default on a loan, they want to know they have assets to attach to get that money back. And so that makes you a positive lender or loanee. And so if you are going to apply for a loan, well, Kevin, let's jump over and get your input on the balance sheet. And we didn't do that one either because
we didn't, but we might, because as we're going through this, it just kind of sparks things. And I've thought about maybe getting a vehicle just for business. I do a lot of delivering and a lot of foraging, so it would make sense to have a business vehicle. And it would be helpful to have you walk me through it when we do it. And I will say, like, if any of this is intimidating to anybody, like, Gabrielle is the master at all this stuff and makes it really easy, even though it seems complex. Put this here, type this here, and voila, everything just comes out beautifully. Yeah. I'll probably end up doing this with you.
Cool. Well, I'm ready and available to help you, Kevin. So and you're going to get even more mileage deductions in your new vehicle.
Great.
So, and so if you're going to apply for a loan, just remember it's going to take at least figure 6 weeks for the whole process to happen, and you'll need the loan application, you'll need your business plan, you need your tax records, and you need your profit and loss statement. They want to know from everything's like 3 years, so the past 3 years, and they would like to see projections for the next 3 years. And the same thing for your farm production, and that's your capacity, your production capacity spreadsheet. What have you done in the past 3 years? And if you've just started and you don't have that history, they want to know what you're projecting for the next 3 years. So all that stuff can be done on the spreadsheets, and then your list of liabilities and your balance sheet. and then your startup costs. And your startup costs can be just a separate spreadsheet list, or you can, put it, attach it to the end of your P&L. But those are the basic things that you'll need to go down that loan process. So so do we have any questions about any of the templates so far? And okay. And so before Kevin launches into this, I want to say that, it's really important that we model what we're talking about. And so we are in the business of saying, gosh, you've got to leverage every opportunity that there is, because that's good marketing. And so Kevin is going to model leveraging this opportunity of giving you his sales pitch. Go for it, Kevin.
Thanks. So just starting this year, I've started to do monthly specials, which are really great. And this is one of Gabrielle's ideas. So monthly specials and subscriptions are what I'm working on currently. And this is my February special that's up here on the screen. This particular tincture is called a 4-of-a-kind tincture. So it is equal parts of chaga, reishi, lion's mane, and turkey tail mushroom. All wonderful, beautiful mushrooms for you. I think the overall benefit that you're going to get from each of these is that they're immune boosters. So they boost the immune system and keep that strong and healthy, which is really important with COVID out there. I think we need to keep immune system strong as a preventative. But so I'm doing buy one, get one free. So I do 1 ounce and 2 ounce tinctures. I do double extracted alcohol tinctures, and I also do organic vegetable glycerin tinctures. So if you bought a 1 ounce one, you'd get a 1 ounce one for free. So that's how that works. And it's been wildly successful this month. I've sold a lot of them. It's one of my popular ones anyways. So this is my birthday month, so I wanted to make it a good one, and I think this is a good one.
And I can certainly attest to the value of taking your mushrooms, Kevin. And
yeah,
they're wonderful immune boosters. And I also like lion's mane in the mix, because lion's mane is good brain food, and with all the brain work that we've got to do, that's an excellent one. And it looks like we've got a question here. What does QuickBooks add, if anything, to using Excel spreadsheets? Well, QuickBooks will be you plug in all the information, and then you hit the button that says report, and you can get a report of your P&L, you can get a report of your balance sheet. And so you would, everything that you're plugging into a spreadsheet, you would plug into QuickBooks, and you get to hit that button that says report. So yeah, and it's just a different way. And I think the other benefits of QuickBooks is that you can do your invoices from it. You can download, instead of doing what the downloading the bank account and the credit card to a spreadsheet. You just download it straight from the bank, and the bank and the credit card can link to QuickBooks, and you download it to QuickBooks, and you match it there. So there's no entry required. So it is a level of efficiency when your business gets more complex and gets bigger, because you can do the invoices, you can download the bank information, you can keep track of who owes you money, of aging, and so then you can do an aging report every month and say, oh my God, somebody's over 30, they're at 31 days, I'm going to give them a call. And so there's more complex layers of things that you can accomplish with QuickBooks. And I think as things you have more things to keep track of, then it's certainly of value to do that. And I did that with my businesses. I did go from spreadsheets to QuickBooks. But actually, when I wanted to do projections, I would take the information and put it back, go back to a spreadsheet, and just use the spreadsheets for projections. And production capacity, there's no way to do that in QuickBooks, so that's would stay with a spreadsheet. So and it's worth go online, check out QuickBooks and all the advantages that they have. And so yeah, you can do invoicing and receive payments and do all that. Receive credit card payments through QuickBooks.
Can I just add to that, Gabrielle?
Yes, please, Kevin.
So I use QuickBooks, and I think it's awesome. It's easy to track mileage that way, and all your deductions really, like by using your business account all the time, it collects all those transactions all together for you. And at the end of the year, doing your taxes is so much easier by just transferring your QuickBooks over to, like, I use TurboTax, so it's easy to do that. They're linked up pretty well.
And I know people that send their QuickBooks to their accountant directly, and then it's all set up in accountant speak, and so the accountant knows how to do the annual your annual taxes through QuickBooks. So they're all the accountants are used to using that, and that makes it easy too. So here it says our accountant said it was easier for him to go off a P&L report from QuickBooks, and they taught me how to use it. Excellent, Lori. Great. Right. And so it's all how you set everything up, and I like on the P&L to you have to, when you first go into QuickBooks, and I do help customers set up QuickBooks, is that you use the categories that are similar to what's on the P&L, and you have to change it to agricultural language is what it is, and as long as it makes sense, and I think once you set it up, run it by your accountant that you've done things correctly. Kevin, there's a question for you. Are you using QuickBooks Online for mileage?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely am. So every day I'm using it. And it basically is just type in how many miles, and you could put the purpose of the trip. So like if I'm going to the post office or if I'm going on delivery or foraging, you can put that in there.
Great. And just remember, as an independent business person, probably most everything that you do is business. And so just, and the whole point is to keep track of that. And I think mileage is a big one of those. So great. All right, so then I want to encourage everyone to connect with Mountain BizWorks, and you get free coaching under the USDA grant that gives free coaching to beginning farmers, which is anyone under 10 years. So you can sign up for that, and there's additional scholarships opportunities for classes and workshops through Mountain BizWorks. And if you're applying for a loan, you get free coaching with that. And you also get cost share towards marketing programs. So the contact information is mountainbizworks.org. And there's a local food and farming initiatives page. And if you want to sign up for coaching, you enter as a new application. And if you want me as your coach, you can plug my name in there. And I'm happy to work with all of you. And I have to say it's a true pleasure. And I have met the most amazing entrepreneurs who have pivoted through COVID and come through that and have fantastic ideas and you all are doing great things. And it's my pleasure to support you any way I can. And for the conference, we have Mike Ames here, and he is at the Farmer Roundtable. He's a Farmer Roundtable facilitator, and he's offering free coaching sessions and can guide you through the Mountain BizWorks process. And I think Jill has posted the link there. Thank you, Jill. And also there's a monthly Farmers Roundtable, a Zoom meeting, and that's co-hosted with Mountain BizWorks and ASAP every month. So that's a nice way for peer-to-peer interaction. And when people say, well, who do you use it as an accountant, or who are you getting your liability insurance from, you can share those things through that roundtable also. And I'm going to end the screen share and see if we have any more questions. And I'm happy to invite questions and comments. And I think we have some more poll questions, right? We can download some poll questions. So maybe while you're downloading the poll questions, if anybody has any questions that you want to throw up there on chat, please. Jill, you may want to answer this. Mountain BizWorks is in 11 Western North Carolina counties. And I don't know so go to the website and I think you would be out of the territory, but if Jill, if you want to clarify that, that would be great. So you can always go onto the website and send an email. Here we go. Oh, it's 26 counties. Oh, so thank you, Jill. It's still quite an outreach, and unfortunately, it's not in Raleigh. And I think in your area is the Carolina Farm Stewardship, and they offer classes. And so you would want to go online and check out Carolina Farm Stewardship. So they would cover that. Okay. Anything else? Everybody had a chance to look at the poll questions? Great. And I think, Taylor, afterwards, if anybody has any questions, they can always submit questions and we can answer them after the fact. Does that work?
Sorry. Yes, we can always answer them after the fact. I'm just taking a few more minutes on these poll questions so we can see if any pop up in the meantime as well.
And then tomorrow's workshop is going to be on diving deeper into cash flow, and Abigail with Bloom is going to be the co-presenter on that, and she's going to talk about her decision making on expansion, and it's a lot of good information, and especially if and I think anyway that's growing a business, because she's jumped from less than an acre to 3 acres and hiring employees. And that whole process, and has taken out loans, and so that's diving a little bit deeper. And so anybody that's interested in participating in that, here we go. Thank you, Carolina Farm Stewardship. Oh, perfect. Oh, Monroe County, Tennessee. It's wonderful that we have such outreach. Jill, I'd have to defer that to you. I don't know about what's available in Tennessee. Maybe we'd have to. I don't know. I don't understand, Autumn's. If I don't understand that question, Autumn. If you could, it says if. Oh, okay. Not our territory. Okay. So sorry, but there's so many resources when you go online, and one of the things that I'm looking for my practicum research project for my graduate school is to create an online platform that would be standalone. And that's what some of these poll questions are giving us valuable information for, is that it seems to me that there's a need to have an online platform with all this information there, everything explained, that you could have a go-to place and just have access to that. So that is something that I'm very interested in knowing if that would be of value to you all, and hopefully we can get that set up this year. So Taylor, thank you and for hosting us and everyone, and thank you all for participating and asking good questions. Kevin, do you have any closing comments that you want to make?
I just want to reiterate what you just said. So thanks to everybody who participated and made it happen, and happy to be a part of it for sure.
Awesome.
Great. Well, thank you so much to our presenters and to all of you guys for your questions and your participation on those polls. It's very helpful. I will be posting that evaluation survey link in the chat one more time. We'd really, really appreciate your feedback. And we hope you have a great rest of your Friday and a great rest of your BOF.